The night they honored me, my parents stood frozen in the crowd. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father went pale as marble. Because carved into the building's limestone facade, backlit and gleaming, were the words, Luna Chen Innovation Center. My name. The name they'd called worthless. The daughter they'd abandoned. Now immortalized in stone at the university they worshipped. But what happened next? That's when everything changed. Let me take you back. Back to where this story really began. Back to the moment I became invisible to the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I was 22 when my parents decided I wasn't worth showing up for. Graduation day. For years of sleepless nights, ramen dinners, and panic attacks compressed into a single morning. I'd texted them the details 17 times. Sent calendar invites. Called to confirm. The ceremony started at 10 a.m. By 9:45, I was scanning the crowd, searching for familiar faces that never appeared. My phone buzzed during the processional. A text from my mother, "Your brother's tennis tournament ran late. We can't make it. Congratulations, I suppose." I suppose. Those two words gutted me more than the absence itself. Like my 4 years of struggle, my degree in biomedical engineering, my graduating summa cum laude, it was all just background noise to my brother Evan's Servanvali. I walked across that stage alone. Accepted my diploma with a smile that felt like broken glass. And when they announced I'd been accepted into the doctoral program with full funding, the applause from strangers felt hollow. Because the two people whose approval I'd spent my entire life chasing weren't there to hear it. The drive to my parents' house that evening should have been triumphant. Instead, I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white, rehearsing conversations I'd never have the courage to start. Their house in Westchester was exactly as I remembered. Pristine. Cold. A monument to my father's success as a corporate lawyer and my mother's social climbing. Evan's tennis trophies lined the foyer. His academic awards covered the hallway walls. My achievements, if they existed in this house at all, were relegated to a drawer somewhere. Out of sight. Out of mind. "You're here," my mother said when she opened the door. Not a greeting. A statement of fact. She was dressed for dinner, pearls at her throat, not a hair out of place. "We're about to eat. You should have called ahead." I did call. 3 times. She waved a dismissive hand. "Well, you're here now. Come in. Quickly." The neighbors. The neighbors. Always the neighbors. God forbid anyone see that the perfect Chen family had a daughter who drove a beat-up Honda instead of the Mercedes they'd bought Evan for his birthday. Dinner was excruciating. My father asked Evan about his upcoming tournament. My mother discussed the country club's summer gala. I sat there, diploma still in its leather folder on my lap, waiting for someone to ask about my day. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "I graduated today." The silence that followed could have shattered crystal. "That's nice, dear," my mother said, reaching for more wine. "Pass the asparagus." "Summa cum laude," I continued, voice shaking. "And I was accepted into the doctoral program. Full scholarship." "They want me to, Luna," my father interrupted, not even looking up from his steak. "We've discussed this. Another 4 years of school? When will you start contributing to society? Start making real money?" "Biomedical research is contributing. Evan has opportunities lined up already," my mother cut in. "Investment banking. Real career prospects. Not this academic fantasy you're chasing." Academic fantasy. The words tasted like poison. "Is that what you think this is?" "Sweetheart," my father finally looked at me, and I saw it clearly in his eyes. Disappointment. "You're 22. It's time to be practical. Get a real job. Find a suitable husband. Stop wasting time on degrees that won't lead anywhere." Something cracked inside me then. Some foundation I'd built my entire identity upon. You didn't even come today. To my graduation. For years, and you couldn't show up for 2 hours. We explained that. My mother's tone was ice. Evan's tournament is always more important. I stood, the chair scraping against hardwood. Everything Evan does is always more important. His tennis. His grades. His future. What about mine? Don't be dramatic, my father said. You're being emotional. Emotional. The weapon they'd used against me my entire life. Any feeling I expressed was dismissed as excessive, hysterical, female. But rage, clear and cold, settled in my chest. Not the hot explosive kind. The calculated kind. The dangerous kind. You're right, I said quietly. I'm done being emotional. I'm done seeking approval from people who will never give it. I walked out. Left my diploma on the table. Drove back to my cramped studio apartment in the Bronx and cried until I couldn't breathe. Then I dried my tears, opened my laptop, and made a decision that would change everything. If my family wouldn't support me, I'd build my own. The first year of my doctoral program was hell. Beautiful, transformative, absolutely devastating hell. My research focused on targeted drug delivery systems. Using nanotechnology to deliver chemotherapy directly to cancer cells, minimizing damage to healthy tissue. It was ambitious. It was groundbreaking. And I was doing it on 4 hours of sleep and whatever food I could scrounge from department events. My advisor, Dr. Luna Chen, no relation, though she became more family to me than my blood ever was, took me under her wing. You have something, she told me after reviewing my first research proposal. Raw talent. But talent without support burns out. Let me help you. She introduced me to grants I never knew existed. Helped me apply for emergency funding when my car died and I couldn't afford to fix it. Taught me how to navigate academic politics and fight for my space in rooms full of men who assumed I was someone's assistant instead of a researcher in my own right. But more than that, she believed in me. When I doubted myself, when imposter syndrome whispered that my parents were right, that I was just wasting time on fantasies, Dr. Chen reminded me why I'd chosen this path. You're not here to prove them wrong, she said once, over coffee in her office while I cried about another failed experiment. You're here to prove yourself right. There's a difference. The second year, I met Marcus. He ran the coffee shop I studied in most nights, a hole-in-the-wall place near campus that stayed open until 2 a.m. He learned how I took my coffee, black, 3 sugars, desperately. Started leaving pastries by my usual table with notes that said brain food and you've got this. Why engineering? He asked one night, sliding into the booth across from me during a rare slow period. Why put yourself through this? I told him about my grandmother. About watching her waste away from ovarian cancer when I was 16. About the chemo that made her so sick she begged us to let her stop. About holding her hand while she cried and wished for a better way. If I can create something that helps even one person avoid that suffering, I said, then every sleepless night is worth it. Marcus listened. Really listened. Not the performative kind of listening my family did, where they waited for me to finish talking so they could redirect the conversation to Evan. He asked questions. Remembered details. Showed up with food when I forgot to eat. Your family's crazy for not seeing what you're doing, he said finally. But their blindness doesn't diminish your light. Remember that. Those words became my mantra. In the lab at midnight when experiments failed for the 15th time. During conferences where older male researchers talked over me or assumed I was there as someone's guest instead of presenting my own research. When months went by without my parents calling to check if I was even alive. Their blindness doesn't diminish your light. The breakthrough came in year 3. After countless failed iterations, endless recalculations, And one spectacular lab fire that singed off my eyebrows. Pro tip, always double check your heat settings. My nanoparticle delivery system finally worked. In live cell cultures, my design delivered chemotherapy drugs directly to cancer cells with 87% accuracy. Healthy cells remained virtually untouched. The implications were staggering. Dr. Chen stared at the results, then at me, then back at the results. Luna. Do you understand what this means? I understood. But I was afraid to hope. Afraid to believe that maybe, finally, something I'd poured my soul into was actually working. We need to publish, she said, already pulling up journal databases. And present at the National Biomedical Conference. This is game-changing work. The paper took 4 months to write, revise, and survive peer review. During that time, I lived on adrenaline and Marcus's coffee. My studio apartment became a war zone of research papers, data charts, and empty noodle cups. I barely slept. Barely functioned. But I couldn't stop. When the acceptance letter came, published in the Journal of Biomedical Engineering, one of the most prestigious publications in our field, I sat on my apartment floor and sobbed. Not sad tears. Overwhelming, I did this tears. I called Dr. Chen first. She screamed loud enough that I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Called Marcus second, and he closed the coffee shop early to bring champagne. I didn't call my parents. Didn't tell them. Part of me wondered if they'd care. Part of me knew they wouldn't. And that part was learning to be okay with it. But what happened next at the conference, that's where everything shifted. The National Biomedical Conference was held in Boston. Thousands of researchers, hundreds of presentations, and my poster session was scheduled for the second day. I'd practiced my explanation so many times that Marcus could recite it from memory. But standing there in my professional dress, borrowed from Dr. Chen because I couldn't afford conference clothes, watching actual experts in my field approach my research, terror gripped me. Then a woman stopped. Mid-50s, perfectly styled silver hair, wearing a power suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She studied my poster for a long time. So long I started to sweat. Explain the targeting mechanism, she said finally. Not a question. A command. I did. Walked her through the nanoparticle design, the polymer coating, the pH-sensitive release mechanism that activated only in the acidic environment of cancer cells. She asked questions. Hard questions. The kind that exposed gaps in research or revealed fundamental misunderstandings. I answered every single one. When I finished, she handed me a business card. Dr. Victoria Winters. Chief Scientific Officer. Prometheus Biotech. We've been trying to crack this exact problem for 3 years, she said. And you, a doctoral student, just did what my team of 20 researchers couldn't. She tapped my poster. How soon can you start? I blinked. Start what? Working for us. Leading a team. We'll fund the rest of your doctorate, pay you a real salary, and give you resources to push this research further than any university could. She smiled. I'm offering you a career, Miss Chen. The question is whether you're brave enough to take it. I should have asked for time to think. Should have consulted Dr. Chen, reviewed the contract, made a measured decision. Instead, I heard myself say, yes. Dr. Chen, when I told her, looked simultaneously proud and devastated. You're leaving academia. I'm taking my research somewhere it can actually help people, I said. Isn't that the point? She hugged me then. Tight and fierce. You're going to change the world, Luna. Just promise me one thing. Anything. Don't let them diminish you. Don't let corporate interests bury what makes your research special. Stay true to the reason you started this. I promised. And I meant it. Prometheus Biotech was everything academia wasn't. Unlimited funding. State-of-the-art equipment. A team of brilliant researchers who treated me like a colleague instead of a student. And a salary that meant I could finally afford an apartment that didn't have mysterious stains on the ceiling. But it wasn't easy. Corporate research moved differently. Faster. With more pressure to produce results that translated to patents and profits. My idealistic vision of helping patients crashed against the reality of investors and quarterly reports. Dr. Winters became my mentor in this new world. She taught me how to navigate board meetings, how to present research in language that made shareholders excited instead of confused, how to fight for my team when budget cuts threatened our work. You have to play the game to change it, she told me once. If you want your research to reach patients, you need funding. If you want funding, you need to make these people believe in you. So I learned. I presented at investor meetings in heels that killed my feet. Simplified complex science into digestible sound bites. Smiled and nodded when old men explained my own research back to me incorrectly. And slowly, methodically, I built something extraordinary. 2 years after joining Prometheus, my nanoparticle delivery system entered phase 1 clinical trials. Real patients. Real treatments. Real hope. The first patient was a woman named Jennifer. Stage 4 ovarian cancer. The same cancer that took my grandmother. She was 52, had 3 kids, and had exhausted all traditional treatment options. When Dr. Winters asked if I wanted to meet her before treatment began, I almost said no. The weight of that responsibility, this woman's life potentially dependent on something I'd created, felt crushing. But I went. Because she deserved to see the face behind the research. Deserved to know someone cared. You made this? Jennifer asked, after I explained the treatment in the simplest terms I could. I did. Then I trust it. Because you have kind eyes. And I need to believe kind eyes make good medicine. I held her hand during the first infusion. Watched the nanoparticles I'd spent years perfecting enter her bloodstream. And prayed to whoever might be listening that this would work. It did. 3 months later, Jennifer's tumors had shrunk by 64%. 6 months later, she was in remission. She wasn't the only one. Our trial results were extraordinary. Unprecedented response rates. Minimal side effects. Patient testimonials that made hardened researchers cry. The FDA fast-tracked our approval process. Medical journals called our treatment revolutionary. And suddenly, my name wasn't just in academic papers. It was in news articles. On medical conference programs. Being mentioned in the same breath as actual pioneers in biomedical engineering. My parents still hadn't called. The day I found out about the building was completely ordinary. I was in the lab, reviewing data with my team, when Dr. Winters appeared with an expression I couldn't read. Luna. My office. Now. Panic shot through me. Had something gone wrong with the trials? Was there a complication I didn't know about? Her office overlooked Boston Harbor. She gestured for me to sit, then handed me a letter. Official university letterhead. My undergraduate alma mater. Dear Dr. Chen, we are honored to inform you that the Board of Trustees has voted unanimously to name our new biomedical research facility the Luna Chen Innovation Center, in recognition of your groundbreaking contributions to cancer treatment and your distinguished record as an alumna. The words blurred. My hand started shaking. They want you there for the dedication ceremony, Dr. Winters said gently. In 2 weeks. It's going to be a major event. Press coverage. University officials. Donors. She paused. Your family will probably find out. Good, I heard myself say. Let them. But underneath the satisfaction, something else stirred. Anxiety. Old wounds that hadn't quite healed. Because part of me, the part that was still that 22-year-old girl searching the graduation crowd for parents who never came, still desperately wanted their approval. "You don't have to go," Dr. Winters said, reading my face. "You don't owe them anything. Not your family. Not the university. None of the people who didn't believe in you." "I know," I said. "But I need to see their faces. Need them to understand exactly what they missed." She smiled. "Then let's make sure you look absolutely devastating when you do." The dress was custom made. Deep midnight blue that brought out my eyes, structured but elegant, professional but undeniably powerful. Dr. Winters insisted on it, along with the stylist, the makeup artist, the whole production. "You're not just attending a ceremony," she said. "You're making a statement." Marcus flew out from New York. "Wouldn't miss it," he said, even though the coffee shop was short-staffed. "I was there when you were surviving on hope and caffeine," he reminded me. "I'm definitely going to be there when they carve your name in stone." Dr. Chen came too. Closed her lab for the day. When I tried to thank her, she shook her head. "I watched you become who you were always meant to be. Nothing could keep me away." The ceremony was scheduled for 7 p.m. The new building was stunning. Modern glass and steel rising beside the old brick architecture. Inside, the latest research equipment filled labs that would house the next generation of students. Students who would see my name every day and maybe, hopefully, believe that they could do extraordinary things too. I arrived early, at Dr. Winters' insistence. "Let them find you. Don't chase them." The crowd gathered as sun began to set. University officials. Donors. Press. Students. And then, threading through the crowd like ghosts from a past life, my parents. My mother wore pearls. Of course. My father, his courtroom suit. They looked smaller than I remembered. Less imposing. Just people who'd made terrible choices they couldn't undo. They hadn't seen me yet. I watched them take in the building, the banners, the program that featured my photo and research summary. Watched confusion cross their faces as they read my name over and over. The university president took the podium. Began his speech about innovation, excellence, the importance of supporting groundbreaking research. And then he said it, "Tonight, we honor one of our most distinguished alumni." Dr. Luna Chen graduated summa cum laude from this institution before completing her doctorate in biomedical engineering. Her revolutionary nanoparticle drug delivery system is currently saving lives in clinical trials across the country. Her work represents the very best of what education can achieve when brilliant minds are given the support to soar. He gestured toward the building. The Luna Chen Innovation Center stands as a testament to determination, brilliance, and the courage to pursue seemingly impossible dreams. "Dr. Chen, would you please join me?" The crowd parted as I walked toward the podium. I felt every eye on me. But the only ones that mattered were the two sets of eyes that had finally seen me. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father went pale as marble. I took the podium. Looked out at the crowd. Found Marcus grinning like a proud parent. Dr. Chen wiping tears. Dr. Winters nodding encouragement. And then I found my parents. Made direct eye contact. Held it. "Thank you," I began, voice steady despite my racing heart. "This honor is overwhelming. But I want to tell you something about this building. About what it represents. This isn't just about my research. It's about every student who was told they weren't good enough. Every dream that was dismissed as impractical. Every person who chose to believe in themselves when no one else would." I paused. Let that sink in. 7 years ago, I graduated from this university with a degree I was proud of and a future I was excited about. The people I most wanted to share that moment with didn't show up. They told me I was wasting my time on academic fantasies. That I needed to be practical. Get a real job. Stop pursuing impossible things. The crowd was absolutely silent. I almost believed them. Almost gave up because the people whose approval I'd spent my life chasing made me feel worthless. But then I met people who saw potential where others saw problems. Who offered support where others offered criticism. Who reminded me that I wasn't here to prove anyone wrong, I was here to prove myself right. My voice got stronger. This building isn't about revenge. It's not about showing up people who didn't believe in me. It's about creating space for the next generation of researchers who need someone to believe in them. It's about making sure no student feels invisible or worthless because their dreams don't fit someone else's definition of success. I looked directly at my parents now. Let them see everything in my expression. The hurt they'd caused. The strength I'd found despite them. The life I'd built without their blessing. To everyone out there who's been told you're not enough, you are. To everyone who's had their dreams dismissed, chase them anyway. And to the people who can't see potential in their own children, who miss graduations and milestones because they're too busy celebrating someone else, you'll never know what you lost. But we'll keep building extraordinary things without you. The applause was thunderous. But I barely heard it. Because my father had tears on his face. And my mother was openly crying. After the ceremony, after the photos and congratulations and press interviews, they approached me. Cautiously. Like approaching something wild that might bolt. Luna, my mother started. We had no idea that I was worth your time. The words came out sharper than intended. That I could actually accomplish something significant? What exactly didn't you know, Mom? We're proud of you, my father said. Weak. Meaningless. Now you are. Now that my name is on a building and my research is in newspapers. Where was that pride when I graduated? When I got into the doctoral program? When I called you crying because I couldn't afford to fix my car and didn't know how I'd get to the lab? They had no answer. What answer could possibly exist? We made mistakes, my mother whispered. Terrible mistakes. We were so focused on Evan, on what we thought success looked like, that we failed to see the remarkable daughter right in front of us. And we're sorry. We're so sorry. Sorry. The word I'd waited years to hear. And now that it had finally arrived, I realized it wasn't enough. Could never be enough. I appreciate that, I said carefully. I do. But you need to understand something. I didn't build this life for your approval. I built it despite your disapproval. The person standing here in front of this building, I became her without you. And while your apology matters, it doesn't erase the years I spent feeling invisible in my own family. What can we do? My father asked. How can we make this right? You can't, I said simply. Some things can't be fixed with apologies or grand gestures. You missed it. All of it. The struggles, the breakthroughs, the moments that mattered. You can't get that back. My mother sobbed openly now. My father looked destroyed. But, I continued, softer, if you actually want to be part of my life going forward, not as critics or disappointed parents, but as people who respect who I am and what I've accomplished, we can start there. From scratch. No expectations. Just effort. They nodded. Promised to try. Made commitments I wasn't sure they could keep. Maybe they would. Maybe they wouldn't. But either way, I'd already won. Because I'd built the life I wanted. Surrounded myself with people who believed in me. Created something that would outlive me and help countless people. Their acceptance was no longer the prize. My own fulfillment was. 6 months later, my treatment received full FDA approval. Prometheus Biotech went public, making all of us early employees extraordinarily wealthy. I used my shares to establish a foundation that provided grants to underfunded researchers, especially women and minorities in STEM fields who faced the same barriers I had. Marcus and I got married in a small ceremony. Dr. Chen and Dr. Winters co-officiated, which was unconventional but perfect. My parents attended. They were trying. Slowly. Imperfectly. But actually trying. Evan, surprisingly, called to congratulate me. "I'm sorry I got all the attention growing up," he said. "I didn't realize how much it cost you. But Luna, what you've done, it's incredible. And I'm proud to be your brother." That conversation healed something I didn't realize still needed healing. The Luna Chen Innovation Center hosted its first cohort of researchers. I visited whenever I could, walking through labs filled with ambitious students who reminded me of who I used to be. I established a scholarship program for students from low-income backgrounds. Made sure they had funding not just for tuition, but for food, housing, emergencies. All the support I desperately needed and barely scraped together. One student, a young woman named Maya, stopped me during a visit. "Dr. Chen, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How did you keep going? When people didn't believe in you? When it felt impossible?" I thought about that 22-year-old girl who walked across a graduation stage alone. About the years of struggle and doubt. About the moment I decided that my worth wasn't determined by my parents' approval. "I learned that the only approval that really matters is your own," I said finally. "Other people's blindness doesn't diminish your light. And when you build something meaningful, something that helps people, that changes lives, you realize you were never doing it for recognition anyway. You were doing it because it mattered. Because you mattered. Never forget that." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. I needed to hear that." I pulled her into a hug. "You're going to do extraordinary things. I believe in you. Now you just need to believe in yourself." Standing on the balcony of my Boston apartment that evening, Marcus beside me with his arm around my shoulders, I looked out at the city lights and thought about the journey that brought me here. The rejection that could have broken me but instead forged me into someone stronger. The loneliness that taught me to build my own family. The doubt that pushed me to prove, not to them, but to myself, what I was capable of. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother: "Saw your interview on the news. You were wonderful. Dad and I are so proud. We love you." I stared at those words. Words I'd craved desperately for so many years. And realized they were nice to hear. Healing, even. But no longer necessary. Because I'd learned the most important lesson: you are not defined by who refuses to see you. You're defined by what you build when no one's watching. By the lives you touch. By the courage to become who you were meant to be, even when the people you love most can't envision it. My name is Luna Chen. My name is carved in stone on a building that will stand for generations. But that's not what matters. What matters is the girl who thought she was worthless now knows her infinite value. The daughter who was invisible made herself impossible to ignore. The woman who was told to be practical instead became extraordinary. And if you're reading this, feeling unseen, unappreciated, like your dreams are foolish and your potential is imaginary, I see you. And I'm telling you what I wish someone had told me earlier: your family's blindness is not evidence of your inadequacy. Their inability to recognize your worth says everything about their limitations and nothing about your potential. Build anyway. Dream anyway. Become extraordinary anyway. Because one day, they'll see your name carved in stone. And you'll realize you never needed their approval to shine. You were always enough. You just needed to believe it. And when you finally do, when you stop seeking validation from people who can't provide it and start building the life you deserve, that's when everything changes. That's when you become unstoppable.